guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, as you can tell from the title, we are discussing basically something big that happened in my life a couple months ago and how it all came to be and the what and the why. And that's what you guys wanted to know when I asked you on Instagram. So other aspects of my move to London I can break down in separate videos so that this one's not too long and it kind of gets straight to the point. But if there's anything specifically you want to know, definitely let me know on Instagram. My handle is at Shantel Rousseau if you don't follow me on there. Comment down below. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video if you do like it. It helps me to know what you guys like, what you don't like, so I can keep creating the content that you find the most interesting and relevant. So without making this video a million years long, let's get started. For those that don't know, I relocated to London late October 2018 after about, I would say, a good 2 years of making that decision loosely and about a year of I'm definitely gonna do this. So I travel quite a bit, and I'm just going to speak as if you've never met me before and you don't follow me on Instagram or anything like that. So I traveled quite a bit over the last couple of years, and I really enjoyed my time abroad, whether it was a couple days or a week or 2 weeks or whatever. I've really enjoyed my travels, and I did really love coming home, but I started to feel like I wanted a change. And unfortunately, I think our European counterparts, and I'm speaking as a Canadian, especially if you live in the EU, you don't feel that much of a burden when it comes to immigration, in the same sense that, like, the perks of being in the EU is you could really go anywhere in Europe that you want to live and have a new experience and a new home, and it's just so easy. Unfortunately, for the rest of us, I would say, you know, those that live in Africa, South America, North America, basically anywhere other than Europe, it's not that easy. Immigration is extremely difficult. I find that even more so now, countries are getting so awful about people migrating for whatever reason, whether it's refugee status, asylum, or someone that just really wants to experience a different part of the world. I won't make this video political at all. I don't believe that anyone is illegal. I don't believe in that term. It's just not something that I subscribe to, but without making this video political, basically immigration is not as simple as sometimes people think it is, and it's not that easy to just kind of pick up yourself and go. So first things first is I am a Canadian citizen. I was born in Canada. I've lived there my entire life. I am very lucky to be a citizen of one of the most liberal countries in the entire world, one of the most forgiving, freeing countries in the entire world, one of the best countries in the entire world, in my opinion. So unfortunately, other countries are not as liberal as Canada is. Canada's not perfect. Canada is not somewhere you can just walk into. That's all I'm saying. But you do actually realize how good you have it when you try to go somewhere else. So fortunately for me, Canada is part of the Commonwealth. Canada being part of the Commonwealth is basically, there's a group of about 8 countries that have an agreement between all of them to live and work for 2 years before you turn the age of 30. Lots of countries have these working holidays type visas. However, the UK is, well, obviously there's lots of countries that have it, but depending on what you're a citizen of and what you apply for or what you can apply to. But some countries have it for like 3 months. Some countries have it for 6 months. Some countries have it, but you can only work in a specific industry. Some countries have it, but you can only, I know a guy was telling me, I don't know if he went to Australia or something like that, but he could only have the same job for 3 to 6 months. Or I think it was 3 months. So he couldn't stay at a job longer than 3 months. I guess they don't want him to become part of the furniture. So long story short, as a Canadian, the UK had the best option, 2 years, live and work, whatever you want, before you turn the age of 30. That's it. It was super easy. It gave you a sufficient amount of time to experience it, 2 years, as opposed to 6 months or a year. You could do whatever job you want. Some of these working holiday visas, you end up being pegged in like hospitality or things like that, and I didn't want to pick up my life to go, you know, work on a cruise ship or something like that. I was not going to do that. If I was 21, 22, that'd be a different story, but at that time, I was in my late 20s, so I was like, I'm not going to do that. I had been to London for the first time in 2015, and the first time I got here, I knew that I could live here. It has enough of a difference, so I know I'm in Europe and I know I'm somewhere different, but it's got enough reminders to Canada, obviously, and it's got enough reminders of North America, of the US, but that's lower on the list. So it had enough commonality that I felt really good here, but I also knew that there was so much more to experience, that it wasn't somewhere that I felt like I was unimpressed by. That was in 2015 for a couple days, and I knew that I could live here. I had the really great option, or the opportunity to know two people, Debbie and Derek, two independent friends that had both done the same thing that I did, and both similar to me in that sense, so I knew that I could reach out to them for help and advice and stuff like that. For any Canadians watching that are interested in that visa program, it is called the T5 Youth Mobility Visa. If you say T5 Youth Mobility in the UK, or if you say it in Canada, it's the same thing. So if they know about visas, they'll know what you're talking about. Some of the stipulations, I think the major stipulation of the visa is you can't be married. You're not allowed to have kids, or if you have kids, you can't bring them with you. You have to be at least 18, obviously, and then you have to pay the fees for the visa. So there's like some health fees and stuff like that and whatever. And that's really it. So that's how I got here. I know legally people ask me on Instagram all the time. I'm not American, which I think sometimes people forget. So I don't believe the same thing applies to Americans, unfortunately. It's really just part of the Commonwealth. And it's not all 33 countries. I think it's only about 8 countries that can do this. Australia, New Zealand, I think Taiwan, Hong Kong, the UK, Canada, and I think I'm missing something else. And that's really about it. So that's the nitty gritty. And then going back, I was traveling, and I knew that I wanted a change. Honestly, I knew that I was ready emotionally. I was in a good point in my life. I was single. I have no children. I wasn't married. Building my blog and my brand is always my first career objective, and whatever job I have after that will always fall second. So I wasn't really worried about that. I wasn't career climbing or anything like that. So, and I'm lucky that my baby I can do from anywhere in the world. So that was kind of my thought process. But again, finding an opportunity that fit, finding one that made sense. Like I said, I was in my late 20s at the time, and it really wasn't an option for me to pick up my life and just go live somewhere to be a server for 8 months. Nothing against that, but I've never been a waitress in my entire life, and it would have had to be a really good opportunity for me to want to do that, because I had just passed that point in my life. And also time was running out. This visa is under 30, so you have to apply for the visa and be in the country before you turn 30. So I knew that I was going to wait till the very end to do it, because I wanted to prepare myself, both mentally and just prepare my life. I was in a lease at the time, things like that. So I basically made the decision that I kind of waffled about it for a little bit, because I was really unsure, and I was like, it seems cool, but, I only knew one person here, which is my dear friend Bethania, who I live with. So it was a lot, right? I knew that I wanted a change, though, and ultimately, and this is probably the most important point that I want to get across, is that I knew that I would regret not doing it more than I would have regretted coming here and it not being the best experience. The beauty of my visa is that it's fluid, so I do say I live in both places, because I technically do. I try and go to Toronto at least once every 6 weeks. I work out there. I have the beauty of working in both places. It's very, very fluid, and I loved that. I met a guy that did it, and he came to London for the summer, he came to London for the winter and then went back to Toronto for the summer. So it's very, very fluid like that, and I loved that a lot. And I knew that I would regret if the time had passed and I had missed the opportunity, because there's no going back once I hit 30. That was it, which I did on December 31st. I knew that I would have missed my opportunity, and that I knew I would have regretted. So I was like, regardless of the opportunities that come my way or don't come my way, regardless of how much money I have in the bank or how much money I have in my pocket. I'm leaving, and this is it. I ran out my lease, and then I was on month to month. I had a great relationship with my landlord. He's phenomenal. I loved my apartment, and sounds weird, that was one of the hardest things leaving. My apartment was my source of solitude. It was my little home. It was the place that I could go in after a bad day and cry and be sad and hide out for a couple days from the world. It was somewhere where I could go and celebrate my wins. It was just my home, and I know if you have your own place that you love dearly, you know exactly what I mean. And giving that up was really hard because I knew that I was giving that up, and not so much about living with someone else. It was more just that physical space represented a lot for me, and I knew that I was really, really, really giving that up for the unknown. So yeah, that was really difficult. It's something that I have moved past, but every now and then I do really miss kind of the life that I had in that little space because it brought me a lot of joy. But October 20th or 22nd, I can't remember, I get the days mixed up all the time, I arrived at Heathrow and I landed in the UK. It took me about 3 weeks to get my visa. I had gotten it in the summertime, and then I knew when you apply for your visa, you basically have to tell them the day that you are planning to enter the country. The day that you want your visa to start. So I knew that I wanted my visa to start September 30th, and it gives you a month from that point. So I had to be in the country by October 30th, regardless. You end up, if you miss that day, you have to ask for an extension and you have to apply for it. And I wasn't going to play any games. I knew what I needed to do. I knew I needed to be out of the country and in the UK before I turned 30. I turned 30 in December, so I wasn't going to run that risk. And the only reason why I stayed until October is because Canadian Thanksgiving is in October. It's the second week of October, and I knew that leaving my family was a really big deal, and I wanted to make sure that I was there for Thanksgiving. I did go back for Christmas, but you know, it's just not the same. Like, Thanksgiving is a really nice time. I think it's a beautiful holiday. Even though people don't even know that Canadians celebrate Thanksgiving, we do, and it's in October, and I just love the time. Sometimes it's really nice, sometimes it's really cold, but I just love Thanksgiving, and I wanted to spend as much time with my family as a group before I left. So I made the decision to leave. Plus I had a trip to New York after Thanksgiving before I left, so it was a really busy time, but I don't regret leaving when I did. So basically life in the UK. So I have been adjusting well, I think. People ask me all the time if I get homesick and stuff like that. I don't, to be honest. My sister moved to Chicago about 6, probably going on 7 years ago. And maybe about 2 years ago, she relocated to Philadelphia. So she's been gone for a while. I lived in the city. I'm originally from Mississauga, which is a city suburb just outside of Toronto. So I've been in the city for a couple of years. So I haven't been living in my family home for quite some time. And yeah, I think with technology and stuff like that, I do feel connected. So I don't feel like I'm not. And when I do have those moments, I know that I can pick up the phone, I can FaceTime my mom, I can call my sisters. It's not a big deal. So I don't really feel homesick. Again, I really knew that there was enough similarities of Canada to here that I would be okay. Obviously, when I go home, I love going home, love seeing my family, love doing all the things that I'm used to doing because that's my home. But I do really like London, and when I am in Toronto, after a couple of days, I am ready to get back because I feel like there's so much to do here. My time here might be really short, and I want to make sure that I'm experiencing it as much as possible instead of running away every chance I get, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what I came here for. I came here to experience this place that I really do hold dearly, so when I'm away, I'm like, I want to go back because that's where I want to be. I will go through in another video life in London and all that and how it's different and how it's good and how it's bad and all that stuff because that is really its own video. But like I said, I really just wanted a change. I wanted a scenery. I love Toronto, but I felt like, again, this was an opportunity that I had to take. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I still don't feel like I'm missing anything not being there. I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be, and even if I do these 2 years and I'm like, okay, that was fun, but I'm ready to go home, or okay, that was fun, but I totally ruined my life in the process, or whatever, the good, the bad, or the in the middle. I'm really, really glad that I took this opportunity, and I just kind of throw caution to the wind and said, whatever, who cares, I'm just going to do it. Because ultimately, you deciding to move, whether you're moving states or you're moving provinces or you're going from one continent to the other, you are taking a risk. Regardless of how good the opportunity is or how seamless you'll blend in to your new surroundings, there's definitely a risk. There's a huge risk in me being here, both for my blog, for my business, for my life. You know, there's good and there's bad. And I've definitely experienced both of it just in the short time that I've been here, and I know that I'll experience so much more. But as hard as things do get sometimes being here, I really don't regret my decision, and that's a very weird paradox to have. You know, I've had my own struggles recently in the last 6 weeks. I would say that I've started to feel it a lot. And it's weird that in the midst of those troubles and those stresses, I still don't feel like being here is a bad decision. And that could be because I work really hard at being self-aware and doing a lot of personal work and really being in charge and recognizing my emotions. And it could also be that I'm doing this trip and I'm not 21. If I was 21, it'd be a different story. I don't know if I would have as much clarity or as much certainty about the future and about myself. So I think that those things really do work in my favor, but that does not mean that I'm exempt from the feelings of FOMO or the feelings of, did I make a mistake? You know, is this the right thing for me? Blah, 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 blah. I'm not above those feelings at all. And those close to me know that I grapple with stuff like that pretty often. But overall, I am really enjoying myself. I don't feel like I'm homesick because I'm able to go home pretty fluidly, and I'm really lucky for that. And I'm starting to kind of build my tribe here bit by bit. I want everything yesterday because I don't have a lot of time, so I might be a little bit more impatient than the average person. But I would say that life is pretty good. I do live in West London, which I really enjoy. I do enjoy East London. I think the Shoreditch area is beautiful. It reminds me a lot of Queen West. If anyone's ever been to both, you could probably see the similarities. So definitely when I go to Shoreditch, I do feel like I'm in Toronto in that kind of sense. It does remind me of home. I'll go through the differences and stuff like that in another video, but that's just basically the gist of it. I hope I answered your questions. I know that this was kind of all over the place, and if there's anything specifically that you want to know, please let me know. I would love to just do more chit-chat videos like this with you. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye!